Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. This will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of November 26th to December 2nd of 2023. This week we have the full moon in Gemini and Mercury in shadow and moving into Capricorn. Before we get into it, if you're looking to get any more information on me or would like to get a reading with me, all of that is in the description below. It's just a link to a form in the description there. You just fill it out. You can get any kind of reading, whether it's like a regular birth chart reading, a relationship type reading, or if you just want to know how the transits and everything are affecting you now. All that information is just in the link below. Just check it out in the description. Anyway, that being said, let's get right into it for this week. Okay, so for this week, we're going to start off on Sunday the 26th here. So what we have happening on this day is we're going to have Venus in quincunx here to Uranus, as well as we're going to have Mercury in trine to the North Node and sextile to the South Node there in Libra. So let's start off with the quincunx here. So we have Venus here in Libra, approaching her conjunction actually to the South Node, which will happen later this week, and is making a quincunx to Uranus. So with Uranus here in Taurus, we're regarding, maybe aspects of our individuality, our self, our uniqueness is what I should say, as well as changes maybe that we need to make. Remember, Venus here is the ruler of both Libra and Taurus. So with Uranus here, this is having an effect. There may be like changes or shakeups and stuff that maybe we want to make or that are happening, and maybe we're not too sure about that. But I feel like as Venus is approaching the South Node here, these are probably things that we need to let go of. And I think as we have the sextile to Mercury here as well, currently in Sagittarius, although now I forgot to mention this last week, but on the 25th on Saturday, Mercury will officially have entered shadow and will go retrograde December 13th. We can maybe touch a bit more on that when we talk about Mercury ingress into Capricorn later this week, or well, later in this video really. But here with this Venus, we're dealing with a lot of Venus type topics where we have a relationship regarding money, how we make our money, so in terms of career, those kinds of things. Venus here, there's still these oppositions. Obviously, she's building an opposition to the North Node, moving off her opposition to Chiron. This could be our wound to ourselves, our independence, our self-confidence, right? When Venus conjuncts the South Node here, we'll talk about it more on the day when it happens, but it's going to be about finding a lot of balance. It's going to be releasing a lot of like relationships and maybe career money stuff. I feel like, again, it's around surrounding aspects of beliefs, what we believe, how we've been trapped maybe in a lot of those ways, because Uranus here is a retrograde. It's looking at the ways in maybe which we've tried to change before, or maybe in terms of things we haven't looked at and what we can change to disrupt. Remember, Taurus can also be quite stubborn and not want change, but we're kind of reflecting on a lot of this, and this might be this frustration, maybe kind of realizing that we need to force a change or actually see this change and wanting to, if you're not, maybe you're wanting to implement it, but if you're not wanting to implement it, this could be kind of like a wake-up call in a lot of ways. Could come up in this sense as well as Venus approaches the South Node here. So yeah, there could be a frustrating aspect in terms of change, either wanting a career change, aspects of relationship change. Maybe you're not feeling valued in terms of your uniqueness within parts of your relationship. And again, this could be surrounding what we used to believe regarding our relationships and partnerships. Remember here with this Libra energy, Libra likes to seek balance within relationships, often by sacrificing themselves. But with this opposition to the North Node, and especially with this opposition to Chiron, we're seeing that we can't sacrifice ourselves anymore. Chiron is here wanting to heal the self from whatever past inflictions have happened to us in terms of our relationships, possibly career, how we make our money, those types of things, and what needs to change to respect our own selves, our own individuality, our own uniqueness, and having the confidence as well, Aries and Mars type energy, the confidence to do so and to move forward in that way. I remember a relationship, when you're in a relationship, you want to make sure that you're having that balance between your own needs as well as the needs of the other. You don't want it pushing too far in one direction or the other, because that's not really a relationship. Right? You're not having that balance. So like, if that's the case, then why are you with that person? you want to be together, but still respect each other's, own decisions and own whatever. But if that's not being respected, then, and I'm not saying that certain sacrifices don't have to be made, but in a lot of cases, we have to kind of maybe find balance here and not sacrifice ourselves and our own individual desires and our own uniqueness in a lot of ways, just for the other person to feel balanced within a relationship. Because if you're constantly having to sacrifice or constantly having to do things that go against you just to satisfy somebody else, to keep them in your life, is that really what you want? Is that really a good relationship? Like, it seems to me like you're just the other person's bitch, really. I mean, sorry to say it that way, but that can be like a very negative side to Libra as they end up turning, well, not turning into, but people take advantage of them and treat them like doormats because they're looking to always find that peace and balance. When Libras, you have to remember that your opposite sign is Aries. Sometimes you need to take a stand in what you want for yourself. And that's kind of, I think, what this energy is kind of leading to here. So let's take a look here as well. Oops, we got the Mercury as well, and trine to the North Node here, sextile to Venus in the South Node. All right, so I think this kind of goes upon more of what I said with this sextile here with Venus and the South Node. It's just the South Node sextile that peaks today along with the trine to the North Node, but we're kind of seeing maybe our beliefs, but where we maybe want to expand in terms of our relationships, how we make our money, those kinds of things as well, right? So with Venus coming and approaching onto the South Node here, we're wanting to release those old patterns, those old beliefs, because in Sagittarius land, we want to expand. We want to expand into more positivity and feel more positive in that sense. And with this trine to the North Node, we're looking at our own confidence, our own self, our own individuality, and maybe, like I said, it's trying to balance it out within our relationships, within our careers, not allowing us to feel so put upon in a lot of ways, right? Because when we're dealing with the feminine energy, especially with Libra, it can feel very, put upon, very like I said, like the doormat type energy, like you're feeling taken advantage of. And we don't want to be taken advantage of. And like I said, the opposite sign in Aries there, finding that self-confidence, getting into your own power and, standing up for that is what gets you out of that space. So with Mercury here also building in square to Neptune, we could be kind of seeing the deception in a lot of ways of where we may have felt out of balance in a lot of this case. So again, it's kind of just moving, or more so of what I've kind of already said about this kind of balance between this, and in a lot of ways, feminine and masculine type energy. And I mean that within ourselves, not just in the outer world as it's like men and women, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. That's kind of very like outdated gender role speak, right? We have both energies within all of us, I think is what I was trying to say, right? So regardless of what your gender identity is, who you are, whatever, we all have both divine masculine and divine feminine energy within all of us. And having that in a state of balance is where we're going to operate at our best. Because we're able to tap into our feminine side when we need to, we're able to tap into our masculine side when we need to. They're in balance and working in harmony together. And I think that's a lot of what this is getting at. And we need to kind of maybe look at our beliefs in certain ways. But I feel like with Venus here, this is dealing a lot with our relationships, how we deal with that within our relationships, within how we make money, our material things, and which of course can relate to career and that kind of stuff. All right, and we're gonna kind of start to see this come more so as the week builds, like I said, when Venus actually conjuncts the South Node there. Okay, let's move on to Monday, where we kind of have this big day of this full moon in Gemini. So we're going to have Mars is also now in Sagittarius here and is on basically within 2-degree conjunction of the sun here, opposing this moon. So we're going to have kind of dealing a lot with our passions, our desires, in terms of maybe where we do want to expand. And with this opposition to the moon in Gemini, I almost feel like there's some kind of limiting beliefs in our minds that we could be releasing here. Again, we still have this square to Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. So this could be the dissolver of a lot of those blocks, like where we may feel blocked in a lot of ways. And a lot of that, I'm also kind of seeing or feeling like this could be like that Eight of Swords type energy, like in our head, where we feel trapped in our own mind, in our own beliefs, right? But we're not seeing that we can literally just walk away. We can literally just walk out of that, like in the card. You can just look it up on Google, but it's a woman who's blindfolded and she's surrounded by all these swords stuck in the ground. And it's the illusion that she's trapped within that space and she can't see, she doesn't know where she's going. But really, all she has to do is just walk forward, and there's an opening right there. She would walk right out of her entrapment, right? So it's kind of illuminating that and maybe bringing some of that to light, really. I mean, it's a full moon, bringing it to light. And also full moons are about release. We're releasing a lot of this stuff. And of course, on this day as well is Mercury's exact square to Neptune. So where, this is dealing with a lot of the deception, right? So this is a lot of Jupiter energy as well, as Jupiter rules Sagittarius, but it's also the traditional ruler of Pisces. So in order to expand our minds, we kind of maybe need to see through some of the delusion or the illusion of what we've been taught to believe or to see in order to expand into different realms and into different areas of our lives. Like where do we need to expand? Remember, Jupiter here is retrograde in Taurus. So Jupiter kind of ruling that square. But that square is pushing for some kind of resolution, pushing for some kind of realization. And with Jupiter retrograde, we're dealing with past type energies, where we've been. And in Taurus, this could deal with our material things. It's very Venus-y type stuff. And Venus is over here in Libra. Right? So again, we're dealing with this balance type stuff. Venus is approaching the South Node. Oppose here, we're dealing with these wounds to self, maybe of what we felt in terms of our abundance, our career, our relationships, all of these things and the illusions that exist we're in, but also where we felt what's been deceptive, right? What dark forces in whatever way that they've been have been trying to cover things up and make us believe certain things that we can't step into our own power, or we can't, do certain things or have certain types of abundance. There's maybe limiting beliefs here that, maybe should be released, or not should be, but maybe released on this full moon to come out. Remember, we have, like I said, there's this still square to Saturn. I consider Saturn in Pisces the dissolver of structures. So it's the dissolver of these blocks, these structures, these rules, these things that we've been put in place in our own minds, right? And it's not just dealing with society. Like I said, it's our own minds where we've had this stuff. It's like that Eight of Swords type energy. So I think this, and with Mars here, Mars is the ruler of the North Node currently as well. It is in Sagittarius. It wants to expand. So I think we need to expand into this area of where the North Node is, of moving forward, of healing these wounds of our own self, our own identity, of our own confidence, our own individuality, right? We need to kind of look at these things and, like I said, find balance here with this Libra and Aries energy. Find balance between your masculine and feminine energy within your own self. All right, let's move on to Tuesday here. So on Tuesday, we're going to have the Sun in square to Black Moon Lilith here in Virgo. So Black Moon Lilith is like the outcasted feminine, or like the feminine that knows her own power, right? So in order to expand into these new spaces, right, because the Sun is still kind of conjunct Mars here, we kind of need to take action. We can't feel so victimized in our day-to-day lives and in this idea of perfection, right? Virgo can be like that perfectionist type energy as well. So there could be an idea of perfection here where she feels outcast, or where we feel like, no, we don't have to live up to this BS. It's like when you see, I was going over this earlier and I kind of got the vision or the idea of like, looking at either like models or something on like Instagram or other social media or whatever. And, it causes somebody to be like, have certain eating disorders, right? Because they want to look that skinny and that sexy like all the time. It's like this ideal of perfection. When it's like, no, you don't have to, in order to expand into a place of more positive beliefs of yourself and behavior, you don't feel outcasted into that space by looking at that type of stuff, right? You have to understand, you have to stand in your own power here, Mars, have confidence in your own self, that just because somebody else looks like that doesn't mean you have to live up to that ideal. Or just because somebody else thinks that's perfect, or society says that's the idea of perfection, doesn't mean that it is, right? We all have our own individual tastes and who we are and everything. You don't have to live up to something like that, right? Sagittarius, it wants to expand in different areas of positivity. It sees different things, different values as all valuable and acceptable, right? So with this square here, where there could be, this part of it that where we do feel outcasted in that sense, but also that feminine rebel that's like, no, I'm not going to take this anymore. I want to expand into more of this positive space and coming in to, your own power in that sense, especially in regards to our day-to-day lives as well. In those areas of, perfectionism, looking at those details and seeing, maybe we need to expand more into other directions and not be so focused on those negative things any longer. And of course, there is this quincunx here to Jupiter. So this could, like I said, be relating to monetary things. It could be as well as beauty, because Venus rules Taurus here, and it can deal with aspects of, beauty, aesthetic, and those types of things. So the analogy that I kind of got or brought up could be very well kind of what this energy could feel like happening this week. Okay, so let's move on to Wednesday here, the 29th. So here is the day where we're going to have the exact conjunction of Venus on the South Node in Libra, and the opposition to the North Node, as well is the exact quincunx of the Sun and Jupiter. So, with this Venus energy on the South Node here, and of course with Jupiter in Taurus as well, Venus obviously ruling Taurus and Libra, that quincunx to the Sun is going to play a role here in terms of maybe where we've been in the past, in terms of a lot of these Venus type themes. And with Venus here on the South Node, realizing that it's from the past, to leave it in the past, to forget it. We need to move forward into this future where we're in our own power in a lot of ways. And like I said, finding this balance between our divine masculine and divine feminine energy within ourselves, right? And within all of us as a collective, right? And we may feel that frustration here with this quincunx to the Sun. We want to expand. Sun and Sagittarius, we want to expand. We want to feel positive. We want to see all these things. But we need to see what was holding us back from this abundance in the past. Remember, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Venus rules Taurus, where Jupiter is in, and Venus is now conjunct the South Node opposed the North Node, right? So there's this finding this balance in order to expand into these new spaces, leaving the relationships that are no longer working for us, leaving these careers, maybe these old beliefs as well of those old relationships, or what maybe it was an abusive relationship. Maybe you were abused in a job in terms of how you made your abundance before in your life. And there's a frustration here. There's something that needs to be integrated, something that needs to be faced in order to expand and let go of a lot of that stuff. And a lot of that is going to be moving into this North Node space, right? The Sun here is still in a 3-degree conjunction to Mars. It's finding the confidence to move forward in that own space and in our own independence, our own selves, our own self-confidence, and to heal those wounds to ourselves as well. So I kind of talked about a lot of this already, so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that for Wednesday. So let's move on here to Thursday the 30th. So here we're going to have Venus moving off the conjunction of the South Node, and she's going to be in quincunx to Neptune. So like I said, this is going to be kind of happening while she's on the South Node as well too. And this is taking a look at where we have been manipulated, where we have been decepted, this aspect of deception in regards to our partnerships and a lot of that stuff. So a lot of this stuff can really come up this week, but it's pushing to find this balance to this North Node in Aries, to our own independence, to doing what we want, right? Respecting what we want. It's not just about the other person, not just about any of that stuff, right? It's about what we want as well. We have to honor ourselves and heal those wounds to ourselves, right? So, yeah, and it could be where we've also been decepted in terms of where we were maybe told in a sense, we have to focus on the other people. We have to think of all the other people and think of this, whatever, to a detriment of our own selves. When it's like, it shouldn't be a detriment to our own selves, because if it's really for everyone, then it shouldn't be a detriment to anyone, including our own self. So keep that in mind, that there's kind of an illusion here. And remember, Neptune rules the media. There could be a delusion or the movie kind of that's playing out here. So just kind of be mindful of some of this stuff. Also, with this full moon that could happen in Gemini this week as well, it could be surrounding maybe an aspect of global communication in some type of way too, and releasing something in that sense. But anyway, so that's what I kind of have for Thursday here. It's just kind of going, again, more touching on what I've already kind of mentioned for this week. So let's move on to Friday. So on Friday here is when we're going to have Mercury move into Capricorn. Right, so Mercury here, it's still at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. I haven't moved this ahead farther enough, but Mercury will ingress into Capricorn. Mercury will go retrograde here, as we can see, on December 13th. And then Mercury will retrograde back into Sagittarius to about, I think, 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So Mercury will retrograde 8 degrees of Capricorn and then retrograde back into Sagittarius to 22 degrees. So we are in shadow. So also a lot of what is coming up this week for us to face and release and all of that. Keep in mind on those themes, because that's going to be abundant throughout this entire, basically, 6 week, 7 week period of Mercury retrograde. Mercury doesn't retrograde for all of that time, but you have to consider the fortnight prior and the fortnight after the retrograde as when Mercury is in its shadow period. All right, so keep all of that in mind this week. So Mercury coming into Capricorn. I mean, we're going to be dealing with, our goals, career. Mercury rules communication, so this could be like, corpo speak, or like that kind of stuff of speaking in a way that represents the image that we want to put out to the world in certain senses. But it could be focused on communication as well regarding the structures of our world. And with Pluto here, the destroyer, and kind of giving power to this Capricorn type energy, there could be maybe more corporate structures or stuff that are wanting to communicate their power in a certain sense. But again, with Pluto here, we're kind of seeing through the BS at this time. Remember, Pluto gives power to the sign that it's in, but it also transforms. So it gives power, but it shows us what really is there in this sense and what we can transform and change about it to rebuild that foundation, especially in Capricorn, is guarding the foundation. So we may be seeing through certain things with Mercury here as well. And going retrograde, there may be communication as well, once Mercury does go retrograde, about some of these control structures and things, as some things may be said now that we go back upon once Mercury, does go retrograde in this space, right? So just keep that in mind too. Also here, we have Chiron in quincunx to Juno. So regarding, this could be marriage contracts, any kind of relationship commitments, contracts, business contracts, and relationships in a practical sense. There could be some kind of frustration here regarding the healing of ourselves, our wound to ourselves. Chiron is still retrograde, so we're dealing with past things, maybe how we felt hurt. there could be some kind of frustration really that is going on here regarding those types of commitments and relationships. And this is our practical day-to-day type stuff, and can also relate to like very detail-oriented type things, nitpicky type things, as well as aspects of perfectionism. So there could be some kind of frustration here in these where we felt wounded in the past in terms of ourself. But that comes up for integration as well. So we maybe feel frustrated in that sense. And again, there may be Mercury in Capricorn can also be harsh communication as well. Like I said, it's kind of like corporate speak, but it's very cold, right? Mercury in Capricorn isn't speaking from the heart. It's speaking from, a rule book kind of thing. So it could be very cold in that sense. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, let's move on to Saturday. So on Saturday, obviously Mercury has come into Capricorn and will sextile Saturn. Right, so with the sextile to Saturn here, Saturn in Pisces is like the dissolver of that structure, but Saturn also rules Capricorn. So with Mercury here, it could be communicating maybe where we felt blocked in order to get rid of those blocks or to dissolve those blocks. And again, that could be regarding the rules, the structure of our world, the structure of, with that Chiron quincunx of our relationships in a lot of ways. And this could come off as being a bit cold, right? Capricorn can be kind of evil. It's the devil card in tarot, right? It's very cold. It can be very like that. But with this sextile to Saturn in Pisces, those blocks may come to mind, but Pisces is like the dissolver of that things. Anything goes in Pisces. Pisces doesn't understand structure. Pisces is the realization that structure is a creation. It doesn't actually exist. Just so much as like matter is just energy vibrating at such a rate that it appears solid, right? Like the reality is created, right? So it's kind of seeing through maybe the illusion of some of these communications and maybe where we feel blocked from expanding into maybe the vision that we do really want to see or communicate in a lot of ways. So there could be an aspect of blocks that come up in terms of our communication, but I feel like it's being almost like dissolved in some way. You're seeing through the illusion, or maybe there's a realization either in your mind or through your communication of the illusion of what these structures really actually are and were, or the dissolving of a lot of those structures or what they were. Right? Okay, so that's, all I really have for this week. Let's bring it back to me here. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have for this week. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, you know what to do. If you didn't like it, well, you also know what to do. Feel free to leave a comment below. I appreciate any kind of feedback or anything from you guys. Hearing what you have to say. Again, any kind of reading that you want with me, link is in the description below. All the readings I do are recording. I send you the recording. You can keep it for life or whatever. Yeah, anyway, that's it. Try and have a good week and take care as always. Thanks. Bye.